everyone, I'm Mistic. Welcome to Mistic Reacts. Today we are reacting to Trust Me Bro. I have never seen their videos before. And today the video of choice is serial killers that are still on the loose. That is something I probably don't want to think about. I haven't really heard about any serial killers recently. So let's see what we have been forgetting about that are still loose.
Hey, do you want to know a scary thought?
Not
you know,
really.
like serial killers? Well, before they were all caught and put in jail or even executed, you know that they were just living in public with the rest of us, right? Yeah, creepy. Not too long ago, I covered the topic of serial killers that were never caught. Some of these were more recent, but a lot of them were older cold cases. If you haven't seen that video, it's linked in the description for you to watch after this one. But what I want to do in today's video is go a little bit deeper and discuss currently active serial killers that are still on the loose, meaning that they are very much so alive and very much so free and very much so still in the habit of murdering people. Now buckle up and let's get started. We are starting this list with an individual known as the Jeff Davis 8 killer. In the mid to late 2000s, the Jefferson Davis Parish in Louisiana was thrust into the national spotlight due to a string of unsolved murders. 8 women, now known as the Jefferson 8, were killed and dumped into swamps and canals around the city of Jennings over only a 4-year period. The connections between these victims in this case is striking, as all 8 victims were discovered to have known each other quite well, and 2 of them were even cousins. The victims at some point in their lives had also acted as police informants and even reported on each other at times. This also led to the families believing that the police were somehow involved in their deaths. That theory was further supported by the 2016 book Murder in the Bayou. But as far as we are concerned, right now there is absolutely no leads on who could be the killer or killers involved in murdering these 8 women. The chance of this killer still being at large is extremely high. What do you guys think? Simply rural towns being underfunded and not being able to solve a complex series of murders? Or did the local police want to get rid of their string of informants? Hence, all of them disappearing and no evidence being found, and a large delay in there even being an acknowledgement of all of these murders being connected in one way or another. It's very fishy, and it's unfortunate that justice hasn't yet been served. Moving on, let's discuss the I-70 killer. In case you're unfamiliar, I-70 or Interstate 70 is one of the longest highways in the entire United States, connecting multiple states from Utah all the way to Maryland. And if you didn't know, those are on opposite sides of the country, so it's pretty long. However, unfortunately, in 1992, this route became the hunting ground for a dangerous individual known as the I-70 killer. The confirmed cases attributed to him include the death of 6 people who worked in convenience stores along the highway. Most of them were young women with brunette hair, with the exception of 1 male, being the only I-70 victim who was male. Because this killer found his victims on such a long stretch of highway, the police were completely unable to connect any meaningful dots. And even though the police and investigators from each respective city and county were able to compare notes, there was no solid enough evidence that allowed them to get any sort of suspect. And the most progress they were able to make was 2 composite sketches of what the killer could look like, which unfortunately never brought anyone to justice. It's honestly shocking how far technology has come and how seemingly easy it was to be a serial killer not that long ago. These cases only took place in 1992, 30 short years ago. And the fact that the composite sketches showed a young man, likely only in his 20s or 30s, the chances of this killer being out on the loose and alive and even active today is extremely likely. And look, at this point, you might be asking yourself, how can I protect myself from these killers that are still on the loose? And the answer is, I don't know. But what I can tell you how to protect yourself from is cybersecurity threats, which is why this video is sponsored by NordVPN. If you're anything like me, you had way too much unsupervised internet access as a kid, and that meant you went on Omegle. And if you went on Omegle, you probably had somebody tell you land with 4 extra.
Where's the code? There we go. If you want to use Nord, go look at that link. I'm not sponsored, but he is. So use that code. Trust me, bro. Look at.
Trust me, bro. Thank you so much for Nord for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to business. Next up, we have the Long Island serial killer. Like the rest of these cases, this one's crazy. In May of 2010, a 24-year-old woman named Shannon Gilbert disappeared, so the police conducted a search looking for her along the Ocean Parkway in Long Island, New York. And while unfortunately they did not find her body, they found something they did not expect at all. They found the remains of 4 other missing women. What started out as a simple search for missing women turned into the investigation of a lifetime, searching for a serial killer whose currently on the loose. Over the course of a few extra months, police found more remains belonging to 6 other people, a total of 10, and the connections were made. The killer mostly targeted sex workers who put up ads on Craigslist. And although there was a lot of effort put into a lengthy investigation, and there was even suspects and persons of interest, which is a first on this list so far, there was absolutely no arrests made, and the Long Island serial killer may very well be still active, as they're still on the loose. Truly.
I don't know if it was like a different case that was similar, but I thought they like maybe did arrest someone for this. I mean, this video is like 11 years old, 11 months, so maybe it was in that time span. But I think I saw like a video on it, or maybe it's a different one, or maybe they were innocent. But I think I did see a video saying they were caught. Don't quote me.
Really sad and unfortunate. All right,
Yeah.
let's get out of the States for a sec and go over to Asia, specifically Japan. This entry is not only strange, but also really scary, and you'll see why very soon. As some of you may know, Japan has a huge obsession with vending machines. It's a huge part of their culture, and it's honestly pretty cool and convenient to have so many cool things readily available almost everywhere. On average, there's one vending machine for every 23 people. That's a pretty high ratio. But between April and November 1985 in Hiroshima, 12 people were killed and another 35 were injured due to paraquat poisoning. What is paraquat, you may ask? Well, it's a popular herbicide or weed killer. When the authorities started to investigate all of these deaths, they started to notice one thing in common. They all had consumed a drink called Ornamic C. Now, at the time, Ornamic C had a marketing campaign going on where if you made a purchase at one of their vending machines, you would get an Ornamic C for free. It was a type of orange beverage. In Japanese culture, sometimes the people would place the free drink on the top of the vending machine so someone else could take it if they didn't want it. The police soon caught on and figured out that someone had been tampering with these free drinks on the top of the machine, poisoning them with paraquat. It was almost impossible for the police to track down anybody responsible, and because there was already so many fingerprints on the drink from the person who originally got it to all of the people that may have touched it, and the lack of CCTV at the time, there was almost no evidence. And unfortunately, this person was never found. It's very likely this person could still be around today, and whether they're a serial poisoner or not, I would say there's a good chance that they're probably up to no good. I don't know about you, but this definitely makes me question any type of free drink I may be offered in the near future. Well, unfortunately, we couldn't stay out of the States for too long, and
there are like a lot of cases of drinks in Japan with vending machines getting tampered with. Because there was like Coca-Cola. I think there was another one too. But if it's from the 80s, I mean, I'd say there's a good chance they're either, dead or too old to really do anything. That's just kind of the higher chance.
now we're back discussing the Eastbound Strangler. This name has a very odd and gruesome origin. In November of 2006, 4 bodies were found in a drainage ditch near Atlantic City, New Jersey. These bodies would all be identified as women who earned a living as sex workers in the area. The women all were lined up and appeared to be strangled, hence the strangler part of the name. But strangely enough, all of their bodies were facing eastbound, which is why they called him the Eastbound Strangler. It's a strange name with an even stranger meaning. But what's most strange is that this killer was never caught. Keep in mind, this case happened in 2006, not 1985. So there was a decent amount of technology to help solve this case. And for that reason, there was DNA evidence that was retrieved. But unfortunately, all this DNA evidence was able to do was clear the names of the only suspects that they had because there was no match. Despite there being a $25,000 reward, the Eastbound Strangler was never found and very likely walks among us today. I don't know about you guys, but if somebody goes and strangles 4 innocent people, I would say that they're probably not just going to stop at that, which is why I considered them for this list of active killers. And for good measure, let's just add one more strangler, specifically the Chicago Strangler. From 2001 all the way up till 2018, the deaths of at least 50 women in the south and west sides of Chicago have had the Chicago PD stumped. Like in other cases, unfortunately, a lot of these victims shared very similar attributes. They were African-American female sex workers in the area, and as you might have assumed, they were all murdered via strangulation. Because a lot of these victims in cases have provided no suspects, the term Chicago Strangler has been used as somewhat of a blanket term to identify the killer or killers who are still at large. The silver lining of this case is that some of these cases have been solved and closed, but unfortunately a vast majority of these strangulation victims have not been given justice, and unfortunately they likely won't. In 2019, a task force was set up to reinvestigate the cases. Somewhat strangely, in my opinion, they have not been able to provide any evidence to validate the theory that there is one perpetrator, meaning that they believe there's either multiple perpetrators or simply no connection between the cases. And for me, I believe that there's too much in common between all of these cases for these to simply be coincidental and completely unrelated. But what do you guys think? It's very sad and disheartening and honestly scary that this sort of thing is still going on, and the fact that these situations were still happening up until 2018 leads me to believe that this is still happening to this day. And for the last entry on this list, we will be jumping over to Russia. We have the Danilovsky maniac, or the maniac with dull eyes. He gets the nickname from a vague description given to the police, and he's on this list because between 2004 and 2007 he killed at least 7 women. He's also been believed to be active as early as 1999 and as recent as 2010. Like basically every monster on this list, he targeted young women, assaulted them, and murdered them, and hid their bodies in construction sites around Cherpovets, Russia. This killer left crude drawings at crime scenes to taunt the police, and even with over 200 people being interrogated and a reward of over 500,000 rubles, the identity of the maniac was never solved, and unfortunately, he is still very likely among us today. One very important note I want to make at the end of this video is that all of the victims in this video are real, and all of these situations are very real and very unfortunate. And with that, I try to be as respectful as possible when covering sensitive topics like this. Let me know your guys' thoughts on these situations, and please, if you haven't already, check out some of my other videos on serial killers. Thank you so much for Nord for sponsoring this video, and thank you guys for being such cool fans and being supportive of creators getting compensated. And if you are looking for cybersecurity, please check out NordVPN using my link in the description.
Do it. Check out the link in his video. I hope you enjoyed this reaction, maybe, but make sure to check out his video, and maybe if it's still active, his sponsor. Until the next video, bye bye.